Hello everyone, welcome to the 5-Minute Discovery channel. When referring to England, especially the capital London, you may often hear the name, foggy land. It seems that London's weather in winter is always covered in thick fog. And that name has become an indispensable part of the image of this city. But in fact, the story behind this name is not simply about fog. In fact, the name, Foggy Land, originates from a long and colourful story associated with the history and culture of London and England. In ancient times, London used to face thick fogs. But what made this name famous was not only because of the weather but also because of special events and historical factors. Let's explore the origin and meaning of the name, Foggy Land, through interesting and emotional stories from London's long history. Surely when you understand more about this name, you will feel that it is not simply a description of the weather, but an important part of British cultural and historical heritage. Before going into the content, please remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. Before we delve deeper into the name, Foggy Land, let's take a look around London, the fascinating capital and largest city of England, as well as the entire United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. London, with a history spanning over 2,000 years, began in the medieval period when the first settlers came near the River Thames and established a settlement. Since those early days, London has grown steadily and gradually become one of the leading commercial centres of Europe. Today, the city has a population of about 9.5 million people. And together with New York and Tokyo, London is one of the three important financial centers of the world. London is not only famous for its financial services industry but also attracts tourists from all over the world. The city ranks second in the list of most popular tourist destinations, with more than 30 million visitors each year. In particular, London is home to more than 300 languages, creating an incredibly diverse cultural picture. Culturally, London is no less impressive with more than 170 museums. The city always offers rich experiences through media and its diversity does not stop at culture. For example, London's public transport system, especially the double-decker bus and the Underground, has become a symbol of the city. You may not know, but one of the unique ideas in the history of the Underground transport system is the use of water to transport passengers. Imagine that instead of underground trains, people once considered using barges filled with water to move between stations, or even using horsepower to pull trains through the routes. This is a clear demonstration of the creativity and boldness of the founders of this transport system. London, with its harmonious blend of history, culture and innovation, is not only a city to visit but also a place to experience and discover interesting and unique stories. Let's get lost in an interesting part of the story of London. The Foggy Land. Fog has long been an indispensable part of the lives of the people here. Located in a special geographical location, London has a fairly warm summer temperature, but the winter is very cold, and that is when the fog appears, creating an unforgettable characteristic image of the city. But the truth about fog in London is not simply pure white fog. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, when the Industrial Revolution began to explode, the situation became much more serious. The rapid development of factories and workshops led to an unprecedented wave of air pollution. Imagine, during that period, the atmosphere in London was like sitting in a closed smoking room. Toxic pollution could not escape. And the fog covering the city became thick and toxic. The toxic substances mixed with the water vapor in the air, turning into acids, irritating the skin, making it difficult to breathe, and even corroding buildings. The fog was no longer a hazy and gentle thing. It became thick, yellow, and dirty, a far cry from the clear white fog in other areas. Throughout the 20th century, London was famous for its dense fog. Especially in November, this was not a light rain or a grey winter sky, but the result of air pollution, part of uncontrolled industrial development. In 1800, London's population was only about 1 million, but then it skyrocketed to 2 million by 1830. This was a huge number for a city at that time, and with the rapid development of industry, the city became an economic center, home to industries such as paper, printing, chemicals, and gas. This development not only brought about an economic boom but also created serious problems with air pollution. Not only from the factories, but also from the people themselves. When winter came, burning coal for heating added to the pollution picture. The dirty air not only reduced the quality of life but also made London one of the cities famous for its toxic smog. These stories not only tell the story of a city's development but also teach us a lesson in the balance between industrialization and the environment, reminding us of the long-term effects that uncontrolled development can cause. By the time Queen Victoria ascended the throne in 1837, London had become famous for its fog, but not the kind of fog that we usually associate with mystical beauty, but a thick, polluted fog. Research in the late 19th century showed that, in the years from the mid-19th century, London had an average of 63 foggy days a year. In those days, children came up with a unique profession, holding homemade torches to guide gentlemen and ladies through dark alleys, and charging them for this service. However, the fog not only made it difficult to move around but also seriously affected public health. In the late 19th century, many people evacuated London in the winter to avoid pollution. However, some romantic writers still regarded fog as a mysterious natural phenomenon and drew inspiration from it. But perhaps none was as bad as the smog of 1952. During this time, London experienced one of its worst episodes of air pollution. Visibility was reduced to just 1 meter during those days. People had difficulty moving around, and transportation was almost at a standstill. Buses, taxis, and ambulances were all out of service, forcing those in need to get to the hospital themselves. While getting to the hospital was a huge challenge, the smog not only made it difficult to move around, but also penetrated buildings, ruining concerts, movies, and sporting events. These days of thick smog became a nightmare for the city, with statistics showing that the death toll increased significantly. Within a few days, 4,000 people died from the smog, and up to 12,000 people are estimated to have died during this period. The worst affected were the elderly and children, who were in poor health and vulnerable. The effects of this terrible smog were also reflected in the deaths of many pets and severe air pollution. Every day, London was exposed to 1,000 tons of smoke particles, 2,000 tons of carbon dioxide, and hundreds of tons of other toxic substances. The sulfur dioxide emissions created 800 tons of sulfuric acid, making the city look like a giant laboratory of toxic chemicals. This situation forced the people and the government of London to take action. After the crisis, people no longer accepted air pollution as a part of life. The government began to apply pollution control measures, limiting the amount of waste from factories and construction sites. Families gradually switched to using natural gas instead of coal to reduce pollution. The story of London's smog is not only part of the city's history, but also a valuable lesson in the relationship between industrial development and public health. The shift from acceptance to action represents a significant change in the perception and response to environmental issues. As the air became thicker and more polluted in the winter months, London faced a serious environmental crisis. By 1956, 4 years after the city's darkest days, a major turning point came with the Clean Air Act. It required industrial, residential, and commercial sectors to clean up their exhaust fumes and banned the use of coal as a fuel. However, implementing the act was not easy. The transition from traditional energy sources to cleaner alternatives took time. Today, when you set foot in London, you will no longer encounter the noxious smogs of the past. Instead, the fog now brings a mysterious and alluring beauty, completely different from the terrible pollution that the city had to endure. Many people who visit London today may have forgotten the origins of the name, Foggy City, and no longer see fog as a haunting obsession from the industrial boom days of the early 19th century or mid-20th century. However, London is not only associated with fog. In history, this city has also witnessed a terrible pandemic, the bubonic plague in the 15th century, which claimed the lives of about 25 million people, accounting for a third of the European population at that time. The narrow streets and poor sanitation conditions caused the disease to spread rapidly. But those are stories of the past. In the coming days, we will have the opportunity to discover more about the beauty and other interesting things of London, from famous landmarks to fascinating facts about this city. Thank you for taking the time to follow the story of the name, Foggy City, of London. See you at this time tomorrow to continue our journey of discovering the interesting and colorful things about this city. Have a great day and goodbye.
danh xưng xứ sở sương mù với